What do you do when the boss says, "We don't make mistakes here"? Should you speak up in the moment? Here's the rule. So the pressure moment is this. How do you handle when everybody knows that you made a mistake? Keep them informed, and if they're asking you, then you're doing something wrong. You want to prompt all those questions. Few things are 100%, but this one is 100%. That's what they want you to do. Solve the problem. Your credibility with your people is just going to take a nosedive. So if you think people expect perfection from you, look at it that way. You're not going to do it until they see how you handle your own mistakes. How to handle when you're given an impossible deadline. And here's the choice that you have to make is, are you being told to suck it up and get to work and make it happen? Or are you kind of indirectly being asked to comment on the situation? You're the leader because somebody has to take charge and move the organization forward. One thing you definitely don't want to do, you don't want to commit blindly. But if you just panic and say, yeah, that's fine, we'll do that, and then you can't follow through with that, you're going to look bad to the boss, you're going to look bad in front of your people, and you are going to feel bad about yourself. So, but always convey that you're attacking the problem. That's the most important thing, and actually do attack the problem. Acknowledge the challenge, speak in facts, lean forward, and come up with a plan. That is the truth of leadership. You're not a leader because you're how long you've been there. You're not a leader because you're the smartest person in the room. That's why leadership isn't about your title. It's about your willingness to hang in there with your people when the bullets start flying. Calm, clear, and fully accountable. How you perform in pressure moments either builds trust or tells everyone you're not willing to do the job. And the team is going to remember which one you choose. You're not a leader because you've been there a long time. You're not a leader because you're the smartest person in the room. You're the leader because somebody has to take charge and move the organization forward. And someone has to be accountable for the results. And here's the quickest way to spot a non-leader. They run from the pressure moments. They gravitate to low risk and low impact work. And usually this is work that does not require any sort of confrontation, risk taking, or telling people no. But you're not going to run. You're going to button your chin strap and fight through whatever comes your way. And your people are going to feel that, and they're going to respect you for that. Let's go. First pressure moment. What do you do when the boss says, "We don't make mistakes here"? You're in a leadership team meeting, and the finance director is reviewing the lost profit for the quarter, and the CEO or the GM is looking around the room, as are the other leaders, furling their brows. Maybe they're looking at you. Maybe they're looking at your people in your team. And everybody knows that it's because of poor execution, and maybe that's your job. Maybe you're responsible for most of it. So the senior person stands up and walks to the front of the room, and as part of their "let's get everybody back on track" speech says, "I'm done with this. We don't make mistakes here. Now what?" Of course there's going to be mistakes. But do you speak up or do you keep quiet? Here's how to handle it. Assess where the statement is coming from, decide on whether or not to speak, and then be proactive in pushing info up the chain. First, quickly estimate, why are they saying this? Maybe mistakes have burned them in the past and they're trying to reduce risk. Maybe their style is just intimidating. It could be a lot of reasons. And you can't reduce all the risk yourself, but you also can't let that comment just hang out there, because this could be perceived as passive acceptance by you. So right off the bat, you're going to increase the quality of information you're pushing upstream, probably the frequency of it as well. And if you're unsure what the leaders care about, you got to ask. Keep them informed, and if they're asking you, then you're doing something wrong. You want to prompt all those questions. Lead the information flow. Executives want to see people always looking to solve problems, not dwell on problems. Put plans into action to improve the situation. Few things are 100%, but this one is 100%. That's what they want you to do. Solve the problem. And notice I said you solve the problem. They want to monitor the situation. They don't want to solve the problem. That's what you're there for. Should you speak up in the moment? Here's the rule. If your goal is to help the organization, then yes, you should say something. But if your goal is just to react or justify what you did, or really is just make an excuse, if that's the reason, then no, you don't say anything. Say something helpful for the group. Don't be defensive. Something like this: "Okay, understand. We got to get a plan together to do A, B, and C." Stay away from responses like "got it." Pretty much a useless statement. And if you had it in the first place, you wouldn't be in this situation probably. Or at least that's what they're going to think. Personal story on this. I was in a meeting a couple years ago a couple executives and then my boss and other leaders in our business unit. And we were requesting approval for a high risk project. We had made mistakes in the fairly recent past, the kind of mistakes that would make approving this kind of request a little dicey. So there's two executives in the room, and one of them said, he looked over me and said, Mike, we need flawless execution. So that's like a version of we don't make mistakes here. So I did speak up and I said, well, I don't think we can guarantee that nothing's going to go wrong, if that's what you mean. And then there was like a pause, and my boss, I could tell, was getting nervous, and people are looking around the room. And then after a couple of seconds, though, the senior of the two guys said, Mike, we know that nothing's perfect, but we want to know that you're going to do everything that you can to make the project successful. And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. Here's the takeaway. Maybe I handled it right or wrong. Doesn't matter. It's done. But when perfection is implied, it's rarely expected. People usually know better. So in handling the pressure moment of we don't make mistakes here, you not only have to empathize with your people and your peers, but you have to empathize with the senior leaders to kind of see where they're coming from when they say things like that. Put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, why are you hearing what you're hearing? And then respond to serve the organization in the interest of the team, not to fight back. That's not the time to do that. Do these things and you'll build trust in that high pressure moment. Dominate this moment when you have to decide now, but you have incomplete information. High pressure moment, you're asked for a decision in front of the group, people are watching you. You don't have enough information, or at least you think you don't, and there's no obvious choice. What do you do? First thing is you got to realize people are going to expect a decision from you, and a clear decision on the spot is the best. Now, some situations, things are better left undecided so you can gather more info, but you have to know as a leader, every time you do that, people's confidence in you is going to wane just a little bit. Take more time if absolutely needed. If not absolutely needed, try to make a decision. So here's what you do if you are concerned about not having enough information. You have to discuss the situation with the people that the decision affects. Don't think it's all on you to come up with a solution. The decision, that is you. But the solution, in fact, the more solutions that you can get from the people who are executing them, the better. So when you're put on a spot to make a decision, you can say, well, here's what I think we got to do based on, and then name off a couple facts. State your decision and then say, here are the things we're going to follow up on. Might sound something like this. Okay, I think we're just going to purchase the equipment. The amount of time it's going to take to resolve this issue and the delay in schedule is going to cost twice as much as buying the equipment now. So we're going to purchase the equipment. We're going to stay in touch with the owner. We're going to see if there's a way to mitigate or split the costs. And if so, we're going to get this group back together to work through that. Any questions? Okay, let's do it. Speed matters. Clarity matters. And most importantly, confidence in what you're saying matters. So add this to your toolbox or your thought process. When you're put on a spot to make a decision, you don't have enough information or you think you don't. What are you going to base the decisions on? What facts? Could be the goals of the organization. Probably in most instances, that is going to be the case, is the goals of the organization. And you're going to use factual data points. So when I say factual data points, that's what I mean. They're not based on your feelings of the situation or other people's feelings. They could be just strategic growth goals. In the example that I read off, those were based on the facts of comparing the two costs. But waiting for 100% certainty, everyone knows it's not possible. What they do know is you're getting paid to deal with that situation, to deal with the uncertainty. So take a stand, commit to action, cover your decision, base your decision on facts, involve people, and keep them informed. Take your role seriously as a decision maker, as a leader, and make the call. Dominate this pressure moment when someone on your team blows it in front of the bosses. One of your people makes a mistake, the senior leaders are watching, they're looking at you, they're looking at them. And let's just say it was bad and there's no excuse. What do you do? Well, what you do next defines your leadership. First thing is don't freeze and don't blame anybody. And that can be a little bit tricky because you can't just run over and defend your person. You can't give the impression that you're going to look past the mistake and make an excuse. But you're going to have to stand shoulder to shoulder with your person. Realize that senior leaders understand that mistakes do happen. It's not going to feel like that in the moment. But what they really want you as a leader to do is get a recovery plan put in place and get back to normal. So say something like, okay, I see this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to address the problem. Now, if you just can't come up with that, or if nothing comes to mind, maybe you just got to sit there and take a good ass chewing with your person. That's fine too. But what you're going to do when that's going on is you're going to look for an opportunity to take charge of the conversation, take it back, and say something like, this is what we're going to do to, here's my thoughts on how to get back on track. And if you still can't think of something to say, like for that, what you could do is you could say, okay, Mike and I are going to get together. We're going to get the team together. We're going to talk about this. Can I get back to you by end of day or maybe tomorrow, whatever? If it's more complex, you could probably need more time. But just get out of that situation. Say, I'm going to talk to the guys. We're going to come up with something. We'll get back to you today. And then if it's a real high tension situation, if people are like pissed off, just at the end of it, just say, is that okay? And I think it will be, as long as you're leaning in, being proactive and confident that you're going to get the team together to work through a solution. The only thing you can't do is freeze up, make excuses, point fingers, blame. You're not helping anybody. You might make you feel good. You might think that you might think you're doing some good there, but it's not. It's making things worse. It's making you look bad. You're making yourself look bad. And it should be obvious, but I'll say it anyway, is you're not going to just point fingers. You're not going to blame your person that made the mistake or people that made the mistake. You're not going to complain about them to your boss. Your boss is looking at you as being responsible for them in the first place. So it doesn't do any good to complain about your people. And you want to think hard about whether or not you're going to pile on them. They probably feel bad enough already. But standing there with them, even if you're not saying anything in their defense, because it's a night and day difference from just leaving them there in the kill zone by themselves. And in private, you might need to say something different to them, but that's in private. That's a big way trust is built in that moment like that, standing shoulder to shoulder, taking fire, because you not only share the successes with the team, but it's equally or probably more important to share those hardships. The pressure moment a lot of leaders mishandle, admitting you made a mistake. This is actually a great opportunity, I think, because showing vulnerability is one of the fastest ways to earn people's respect. So if you make a mistake, I would look at that as an opportunity to earn trust, not as a setback. Because here's the truth, we're all going to make mistakes. And your team knows it. They know that you're going to make mistakes yourself. You're not going to be able to camouflage all of them. Shouldn't try to camouflage any of them, really. But when you attempt to do that, you really look childish and self-centered. So the pressure moment is this. How do you handle when everybody knows that you made a mistake? You can say something like, hey, I missed that. Here's what we're going to do about it. It could be as simple as that. In fact, less is probably better. You don't need to go into how sorry you are. In fact, you can say that one time, but if you're always like saying sorry and I apologize, that makes you look weak as well. That's on me. I missed that. Or probably best yet is that's my mistake. No blame, no excuses. And when should you do this? Admitting fast earns trust. If you wait a while to see if you can get away with it, if people don't realize what's going on, it's best to assume that they know what's going on. But if you wait, then it loses all the effect. And definitely when you deflect that or you kind of deny that you did make a mistake, your credibility with your people is just going to take a nosedive. And here's the thing, once you admit it, there's no drama. Everything kind of resets. But the problem that a lot of people have with this is they think people expect perfection when the opposite is true. In fact, people want to see that you can admit mistakes. And when you do so, that's very encouraging to them because they're going to make mistakes. They know they're going to make mistakes. So when they see you admitting, they are going to think that you're going to take care of them when it happens to them too. So if you think people expect perfection from you, look at it that way. If you're never, or you think you're never making mistakes or that they can see, how's that going to make your people feel when they're faced with a situation where maybe you want them to take a little bit of risk, take a chance, try something new? They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it until they see how you handle your own mistakes. So anyway, when you make a mistake, look at it as a great opportunity to show that you're human and you can admit it. How to handle when you're given an impossible deadline in front of the team. You're in a meeting, boss looks at you, says, I need this by this certain time. You don't think it's possible. Everybody's looking at you. What do? First thing you do, don't panic. Focus on the person talking. Pay attention to their voice, their expressions on their face. Try to determine if this is really a demand. And here's a choice that you have to make is, are you being told to suck it up and get to work and make it happen? Or are you kind of indirectly being asked to comment on the situation? If the boss says, okay, you got it, and walks off and that's it, get your team together right away as soon as you can, talk about the situation, and go back that same day with your plan on how to attack it. And in that plan, you can lay out your concerns as far as the timing or whatever the case may be. And by the way, when you tell the team you got to get like 4 weeks of work done in 1 week, you got to be careful not to complain about it because you're just digging the hole deeper. Now, if you're being asked to comment on the situation, the way you do that is you base your comments on facts. You don't just complain. You don't express your feelings or try to think of what other people might be feeling and pass that on. It's got to be facts. Well, what if none of the facts come to mind? What if there's really no facts that you can just blurt right back? You say, okay, let me talk to the team. Let me get back to you today or tomorrow, whatever the case may be. And again, depending on the situation, if this is really like nuclear hot, you're going to say, okay, is that okay? Does that work if I come see you tomorrow or next week or whatever? One thing you definitely don't want to do, you don't want to commit blindly. You don't want to fold, but commit to a same day update on an assessment of what's possible. But if you just panic and say, yeah, that's fine, we'll do that, and then you can't follow through with that, you're going to look bad to the boss. You're going to look bad in front of your people, and you are going to feel bad about yourself. So going back to the first thing is don't panic. Listen to what's being said. Pay attention to who's speaking. Lead with calm, lead with clarity. Because again, the person that's saying this really just wants you to put a plan in motion to make the team successful, to achieve a goal. And when I say use facts to support your assessment of situation, what does that mean? It means something like, you can comment on lead times, where you're being asked to do something in 8 weeks, but you know that your vendors or your contractors, whoever you're working with, needs 12, for example. That'd be an example of a factual comment you can make. Or you need to subcontract something. It's typically twice as much as the budget you have available to do it. Those are facts that you can not push back is probably not the right way to say it, but you can include those in your assessment of the situation. But always convey that you're attacking the problem. That's the most important thing, and actually do attack the problem. But just saying that it can't be done is not the way to handle that, because there might be a way to do it. And it might be one of your rivals that knows how to do it that way. And they could be just looking for an opportunity to make you look bad. And you don't want to leave yourself open to that, because people are not really interested in your success. They're interested in theirs. Maybe you got 1 or 2 people in your life, maybe 3, that are really interested in your success. Best to assume, though, that you got to take charge of it yourself. Most of the people that you meet and work with are really more concerned with themselves. Acknowledge the challenge, speak in facts, lean forward, and come up with a plan. You got to remember, if all situations were easy, they wouldn't need you. That is the truth of leadership. You're not a leader because how long you've been there. You're not a leader because you're the smartest person in the room. You're there to deal with the pressure moments. You're there for when the plan goes sideways. You're there to have the conversations nobody wants to have. And you're there for when everybody's looking around the room and somebody has to step up. That's why leadership isn't about your title. It's about your willingness to hang in there with your people when the bullets start flying. Calm, clear, and fully accountable. Because when you can do that, you start to dominate the pressure moments. Your people will feel it. They'll trust you. They're going to respect you. Your people are going to follow you. That's leadership. Dominate the pressure moment. Don't let it dominate you. Hope this helps. Subscribe. I'll see you next time.